Dame time in mini. Damian Lillard to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Christian Darrisaw. Hold on for a second. Why he tore his ACL at the perfect time. I know that sounds crazy, but he literally did. I'm going to explain all of that and more on today's podcast. But first, I need to tell you about 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis, because they transformed our bathroom in 48 hours, and they will do the same thing for you. You have to trust and believe in 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis, because they will get your project done in 2 days. Don't wait 8 weeks to get your project done. Get your project done in 2 days, 48 hours, like my wife and I did. A complete, full transformation. Take a look at our before and after pictures. Before, we had a blue floor, a step walking into the shower, and handrails everywhere. Our bathroom was designed for an 80 to 90-year-old couple. The problem is, I ain't 90 years old. I'm 33. And we had a bathroom that was moldy, ugly shower, step, floor, vanity, and in 48 hours, they completely gave us the bathroom masterpiece of our dreams. We went from 1 sink to 2 sinks. We got a new mirror, a new countertop, new vanity, new tub, new floor, got rid of the ugly step, and the mold is gone with a new surround. 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis did this all for us in 48 hours. Contact them today for your free consultation, and they also have affordable payment plans. 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis. All right. Damian Lillard hits the open market after the Milwaukee Bucks make a shocking decision and release him to acquire Miles Turner in free agency, who left the Indiana Pacers. Now, what's important that I think this podcast does better than any other podcast, humbly speaking, is that I look at this objectively. Because what happens is we see the name Damian Lillard, and we all lose our shit. Some, including me sometimes. We see a name, and we're like, oh, if he could just be a Minnesota Timberwolf, the team would be so much better, and we would just be unstoppable, and nobody could stop Damian Lillard and Anthony Edwards. We go into this place of imagination, and we start picturing Damian Lillard and Anthony Edwards on the same basketball team. But the problem is we have to look at it more objectively than that, because the Bucks released Damian Lillard because they thought that their team would be better paying him $22 million over the next 5 years instead of having Damian Lillard on their roster next to Giannis as he recovers from his torn Achilles. Damian Lillard is going to be 35 years old by the start of next season. He can still score and assist and rebound for a 6'2" guard. His last 2 years with the Bucks, he averaged roughly 24 points per game, 7 assists he dished to go along with 5 rebounds. Those are all legitimate statistics for an aging NBA superstar. The guy can still play. But the problem is that he tore his Achilles tendon last year in round 1 against the Indiana Pacers, which means he is likely to be out for a majority of next season. There's a big difference between Tyrese Halliburton recovering from a torn Achilles and Damian Lillard, 35 years old, recovering from a torn Achilles. You hear all the time in sports, a player will say, I can't recover from injuries the way I used to. Or a player will say, I can't get up and respond after I fall on the ground like I used to. That is Damian Lillard in this scenario. He isn't a 27-year-old player in his prime anymore, recovering from a significant injury. He has wear and tear on his tires, and he's been in the league for a long time. And now you're asking him to recover from an Achilles, come back late in the season, and then make an impact for the Timberwolves in the playoffs? Our expectations need to shift because our imaginations are taking us to one place of imagining a perfect backcourt of Damian Lillard and Anthony Edwards when reality is telling us that he is not going to be the same player following a rehab of a torn Achilles at 35 years old. Mark Spears is an insider and is close to the team of Damian Lillard. He has his sources within their camp. I'm sure speaks to Damian every once in a while. He said there's double-digit number of teams calling him, and speculation is he could be back around All-Star break. Well, that is Damian Lillard's team pumping out that information to get teams interested in his services. But reality, even if he does come back around the All-Star break, he isn't going to be Damian Lillard in game one. It's going to take him a month, 2 months, 3 months to get his legs under him and to get comfortable playing again after sitting out for almost an entire year. So what this podcast is about is creating realistic expectations about Damian Lillard playing in a Timberwolves uniform. What is also interesting is that Mark Spears brought up the Minnesota Timberwolves as the best top destination for Damian Lillard. And that's where we can lose our imaginations and lose complete grasp of reality. Now, what does excite me about Damian is that he is an undersized guard that has had tremendous success in the NBA. Who better than Rob Dillingham, also an undersized guard in the NBA, to learn from? Damian could sign a small contract, a veteran minimum with the Timberwolves, because he's getting $22 million over the next 5 years from the Bucks. Sign with the team and be a mentor / player on the court for Rob Dillingham. And that in and of itself, I think, would be worth signing Damian Lillard. Plus, once his feet get under him and once he becomes completely healthy and gets in shape, then Damian could provide some electricity to the Timberwolves bench or Timberwolves starting lineup. But it's not going to come right away. Maybe what would happen is if the Timberwolves are indeed interested in Lillard, they sign him to a 2-year deal. The first year, when he comes back after the All-Star break, it's kind of getting his feet wet, getting used to it, getting his body back in shape and understanding the team dynamics. And then maybe it's that next year where Lillard and the Timberwolves really form a relationship that can help both the Timberwolves and Lillard. But the problem with that is he's just getting older. It's not like you're asking a 28-year-old Lillard to come to the organization and then, okay, he'll be healthy at 29 and you have a full season. He'll be 36 at that point because he's turning 35 soon. So is that really a risk a low risk, high reward decision that you want to make, because you're not going to have to pay him much. You're not going to have to unload boatloads of money his direction, because the Bucks are paying his salary. The Bucks are paying Damian Lillard to play against them, to pull out a Moneyball quote when Brad Pitt is talking to David Justice of the Oakland Athletics. We ain't paying you $7.5 million. The Yankees are paying half your salary. That's what the New York Yankees think of you. They would rather pay you $4.5 million so they can play against you. So I do think that the Damian Lillard conversation to the Timberwolves requires much more conversation and thought than just the idea of losing our imaginations on Damian Lillard in a Timberwolves uniform. Because he will not be NBA superstar Dame like we are so accustomed to seeing. He will be a different version of himself because of the wear and tear and the tread on his tires. Does Damian Lillard just become another athlete that found his way to Minnesota late in his career and trying to flourish one more time? Think Randall Cunningham, 1998. Brett Favre, 2009. Brandon Roy with the knee troubles. Vladimir Tarasenko, think 2 days ago when the Wild signed him. So maybe Lillard will find his way to Minnesota and be another player that tries to get one more good season in Minnesota. But we also need to keep our imaginations in check, because it ain't Dame time anymore. He could be a valuable asset, a valuable player, but he's not going to average 25, 30 points a game anymore in the NBA. He could average 15. He could be a lockdown three-point shooter, but he would probably be a player that gets exposed defensively and is the offensive production worth the defensive liability that he would ultimately bring the Timberwolves? All questions that need to be answered when considering bringing a player of his magnitude to the organization. It's not as simple as, oh, Dame, yeah, let's bring him in. It's not as simple as that. Christian Darrisaw tore his ACL mid-season last year against the Los Angeles Rams. Controversial play. End of the half. A lot of people criticized the decision. I didn't, because you bust out a 30-yard run and then all of a sudden you're a play or two away from being in field goal range. The Vikings ran the ball and, hey, tore his ACL. It happens. You can't predict something like that. So people that criticized the run and didn't understand what the Vikings were doing, I don't agree with that take. But Alec Lewis, this comes from Vikings fan page on X, so take it for what you will. Colin Coward rounded the story on this page, and this page quoted a story from Will Raggett of Bring Me the Sports, so I'll trust it enough. It says, early season return is more likely for Vikings left tackle Christian Darrisaw, just not week one. I say this with an understanding that you might completely disagree with me. But Christian Darrisaw tore his ACL at the absolute perfect time for the Minnesota Vikings last season, because him being in the lineup was instrumental to the Minnesota Vikings' solid start to the NFL season last year. And then he goes down in week 8, just before the trade deadline, so that the Vikings could trade for Cam Robinson of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Darrisaw was there, got the Vikings on the hot 5-1 start, gets hurt just before the trade deadline so that they can bring in a guy to replace him. And then he has week 9 through week 18 and the playoffs and the offseason to completely rehab that knee and get it 100% healthy by week 1 or week 2 or week 3 of the NFL regular season the following year. Because you think about the worst case scenarios in Christian Darrisaw's case. And if Darrisaw injures his knee in week 18 against the Detroit Lions, well, you basically can throw out the entire next year. He's basically out for 95% of the 2025-26 season. That would suck for J.J. McCarthy and his first year starting for the Vikings. If Christian Darrisaw injures his knee week 1 against the New York Giants last year, well, we don't know what happens against the 49ers or Texans or Packers or Jets, because they could easily expose the Vikings and their left tackle position. Maybe Sam Darnold isn't as protected. Maybe Darnold doesn't have as great a season, but he injures himself after the Vikings already started 5-1. So they already got the confidence. They already got Sam Darnold going. They've already feeling themselves. They already believe that they can do this. But he also injures himself so that he can rehab and get ready for the following year. Obviously, the best case scenario would be that he wouldn't have ever torn his ACL, that he would have remained 100% healthy throughout last season and was with the team practicing all day, every day this offseason with McCarthy and the line and getting their cohesiveness, but he did. So if he was going to tear his ACL, which he did, he tore his ACL at the perfect time during the regular season. So I think there's a lot of positives that we can take away from Christian Darrisaw's injury. And there's a lot of good things that we can look ahead to, because he will be back early in the season. And that just means good things for the Minnesota Vikings offense and J.J. McCarthy's confidence. All right, one more story to touch on. The Timberwolves have announced their Summer League roster. And the Summer League really has become a spectacle over the last few years. NBA superstars have showed up and have gone to NBA Summer League games in Las Vegas. They want a sneak peek at the top players in the draft. They're supporting their teams, their teammates, and it's really become a big deal. The Timberwolves, sure, it's going to be cool to see Juan Berenjay and Rocco Zikarsky, the 17th and 45th overall pick for the Timberwolves. But what's also going to be fascinating and a lot more intriguing is to see Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon Jr. play in the Summer League. Because Terrence Shannon Jr., the hope is that he takes the next step in his game, which we saw glimpses of last year, and the loss of Nickeil Alexander-Walker is not going to hit as hard because Terrence Shannon Jr. has a flourishing offensive and defensive game. and Rob Dillingham, with Mike Conley aging and with the point guard position up for grabs, hopefully Dillingham can take his game to another level this offseason so that he could potentially even start throughout periods of next year. I'm not super high on Dillingham. Even his offensive game as rookie year, during the spurts that he did have, I wasn't personally impressed by the amount of moves and the decision making that he showed as a rookie. You know, sometimes you get glimpses and say, oh, this guy can play. He just has to develop into his body. It felt more like a case of a guy lost on the basketball court than a guy that I saw glimpses of. So to see him a part of the Timberwolves Summer League roster is super exciting, because now we get an early look to see if he is improving his game. And this is a moment where he should be flat out dominating these games because of his year in the NBA and because of the game that he should have been improving upon throughout the offseason. So it will be fun to see if he really takes advantage of this opportunity and showcases that he was worth the Timberwolves trading a future first-round pick to the 8th overall spot and selecting him there. So, as boring and as meaningless as the NBA Summer League has been, it's really exciting this year because the Timberwolves have a stacked roster filled with players that already have experience that we hope can take their game to the next level. So, I've been working on my Minnesota accent. So, try to get rid of that. So, hopefully, the Timberwolves can show something in the Summer League and get fans excited, get the organization excited about the upcoming NBA season. That's all for today. Remember, 5-star bath solutions in Minneapolis, affordable payment plans, free consultations. Thank you for going on this podcasting journey with me.